Yo, guys, welcome back to JT's Mixtape, episode number 37. And if you guys are enjoying these podcasts, please give me a 5-star review on either Apple or Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you.
Come closer, my child.
I have got a podcast sponsor. I was happy to partner with Modern Roots Life, and this is really cool because it's a Christian company. Modern Roots Life, they provide natural health supplements, natural salts, beef liver, magnesium, copper, lots of things. Natural, third-party tested supplements. And I think for me, I often complain about being very tired and having a bit of brain fog trying to do everything that we're trying to do. So I just started my regime. And so I'm excited to see how it works out because I think like you guys in this community that we don't really want to go to the doctor anymore. And I'm not saying you'll never have to, but I'm saying that if I can be more healthy, then I'm doing my best to try to do that now. Physically and spiritually and mentally. So if you guys want to check out Modern Roots Life, check out the link in my description. People often ask how they can support me. Well, I think it's really cool if you can support me by supporting people that support me and you get something in return. And obviously being healthy is a pretty good return. Ryan, what's going on, brother?
Oh, nothing much. I just heard a rumor that one of our kind has been released. He's been released from the depths.
Yeah.
And pretty exciting.
Yeah, finally some good news. We said I got some good news and some better news. So the good news is we're going to try to keep the politics out of this episode for the most part. There's one political video that might get tacked onto the end, but it's an important issue. But yeah, for the most part, we're not talking about Iran and Israel and all that kind of stuff. So no talking about Trump. And so the better news is the Bully Slayer is back. Check this out.
He's back, Bretta.
Oh, they got my ass. They got my ass now. But people, on a real, before I get back into the Tartarian and the mud flood content, I just need to breathe. Listen, this past year, in fact, my whole life, I've been going through some hard, challenging situations. Yeah, sometimes I didn't think I was even going to make it. You see, God's chosen people will always be challenged and tested. But believe me, no burden is too heavy for man to bear. So I'm going to carry on. Now I know there's some people that might be upset. I know. And sometimes I get upset too. But that's life. You just got to keep moving forward and striving for better. No retreat, no surrender. So I'm still going on a worldwide expedition. I'm still going to do my research and I'm still going to drop that mudflood Tartarian content. But sometimes you just need to reflect. Take it easy. Remember, the race ain't for the swift, but it's for those that can endure. And trust me, we're going to keep on going. I just want to big up everybody that supported me, I'm telling you. I'm shocked how many people are still supporting man through these hard times. Yeah? You really don't know what you got until it's gone. That one's there. You know what I'm saying? So many people said they miss man and I didn't think you man even cared about me. That one's there. So I realized, we're at war. Get me? Good versus evil. Truth versus lies. And I'm going to keep it one far wow. I'm going to keep it one far wow all the way. Yeah. I got nothing to hide. You get me? But I've got a lot to say. So people, Bully slaying business come back again.
He's back.
Yeah, it's good news. We're not even gonna get into why he was gone. I think I think most people assumed that he was locked up. I don't know what he did, but nothing too bad that he could not be forgiven for. So I'm just happy to have him back. He's obviously a show favorite. We like to I appreciate his content. I don't agree with everything he says, but I do appreciate the way that he can add humor to the videos he makes, and I think that's kind of my goal too. I always try to like keep it light, keep it fun. I mean, if you're going to make short videos even about dark topics, it's good to have a little wit about you, and the Bully Slayer always provides that. So yeah, I'm glad to have him back. We need him.
Yeah, we need the Bully Slayer back, bro. Come on, you gotta join us on our podcast, bro. Jump on, and we'll talk about all kinds of cool stuff.
That would be epic. That would be epic. So yeah, if the Bully Slayer, if anybody knows him, yeah, shoot him a link to this podcast and ask him if he ever wants to join us. He's got an open invitation. So yeah, that would be amazing. And spoilers, there will be a Bully Slayer video. I'm going to pull one out of the archives to show you, because we got a Chicago theme coming up later, because there was one really viral video about Chicago that everyone's talking about, and we'll get to that in a minute. But first, we're going to show one of my videos, because it is JT's mixtape, and originally this is what the show was. I thought it was going to be, was me showing my videos, but I thought I should probably show other people's videos. I'm going to show my video right now. Check this out.
Let's do it.
What do you guys know about meltology? You don't know about it? Let's talk about it. Meltology is the idea that certain mountains were actually once melted buildings. And here's a real good example of this. Check this place out in Bolivia. It's called Ciudad de Roma. It kind of looks like a city, doesn't it? That's interesting, because that translates in English to City of Rome. That's pretty weird, right? In Bolivia? And what's also weird is that in Bolivia, it has lots of Greco-Roman architecture. I wonder if the two could be related. I think they might be. What do you guys think? Do you think this could have been once an ancient city that was melted by the wrath of God? In the Bible, it mentions that the mountains are going to melt like wax on the day of the Lord. What if this is evidence that that day already happened? There's evidence all around God's green earth. Some stuff not so green, because it looks like it was melted. What do you think, Brian? Why do you think that they would name some kind of a mountain range or a rock formation City of Rome?
I don't know. It's a pretty sus thing, I would say myself. I mean, looking at it makes you wonder. Was that actually a city in some capacity, and it's just been melted? Like, I mean, that's totally a possibility. I mean, there's so many structures. I think I had a Windows default background, and it like just shows random pictures. And one of those images, it just went the other day. Like, it just literally showed all these like little dirt looking carved into the side of the mountain rock hut things. I forget which area it was in. I think it was one of the pictures that was shown. But it's like it's everywhere, and they try to just like kind of hide it in, like, oh, that's like, it's people that built their houses out of the side of a cliff and rock, and there's no steps or no way to get up there. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things where that it's one of my favorite topics, other than like the underground stuff. It's probably one of my favorites, is it just seeing all the rock formations that just seem so unusual. And I know that a lot of people who are kind of or Christians, we point to a lot of things to Noah's flood, which I don't doubt that that's a big part of why the earth is shaped the way it is right now. But I think a lot of this stuff, it doesn't seem like water did this. This looks like something like fire did this. And I do think it's interesting, yeah, because like I was talking about Bolivia having like Roman-esque structures in it. And I think that that's kind of weird. I think Bolivia is a really, really poor country. And I want to say that it would have been a Spanish colony. So why exactly would they decorate their town in a Roman manner? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Isn't that kind of weird? And
Yeah,
why would they
what was
name
that? Go back to that one.
I think some of that stuff was like they're actually, I mean, because because like I said, I think sometimes they're just showing Rome, because Ciudad de Roma is in Spanish, that's City of Rome. So if you see something like that, I mean, I'm not saying I know for sure, but I just think it's a weird thing. I think it's kind of a weird coincidence that you would name a mountain range a city. That's
Definitely
weird.
weird.
That's
Definitely
weird,
weird thing.
right?
Yeah, for sure weird. For sure unusual. For
I mean, of
sure
course, it's got
questionable.
it's got a little bit of the vibes of how the Grand Canyon's named all these temples. All the rock formations are called temples, but it's not like the inside of the Grand Canyon's called the city of Memphis, Egypt, or something like that. Because that's kind of like what it would be. It's like they would name the place a city inside the Grand Canyon. I think that then everybody would really raise an eyebrow, like that's weird. Like you named it a city. It kind of does look like a city now that you mention it.
Yeah, but they did name it like the certain temples from Egypt, and there's like it's like it already is suspicious, especially with that reading of that one dude that supposedly found a bunch of stuff in there, and the way they've like sectioned it off, like you can't go to this part of the Grand Canyon. Why not? Why can't we go? Why can't we go to that part of the Grand Canyon? Let us go over there. What's over there that we can't see?
Yeah, yeah, no question about it. I got a little quick follow up video, maybe like a video that might go along with this. This is just, I thought this was really weird. I love all the kind of just scenic shots that some of the TikToks I see. And this one just, I don't know. You tell me if you think there's any correlation between what I just showed you with that rock formation and what you see right here.
That's interesting. It does look a little bit like Lord of the Rings going on there for
I mean,
sure.
I mean, just tell me, Brian. It's like, do you really think it's like, doesn't that seem quite amazing that they built it looks like a cathedral and some kind of a little, I don't even know what that is,
A
up
rock
there on the
mountain.
top of that mountain. You know how difficult that would have been to do that?
Yeah.
I
I mean,
mean,
that's
but
pretty
if you think
crazy.
about it in the way of like let's just say it's similar to the other melted things. That was like if God would pour down fire on the top of that thing, because I don't doubt that what's under it's a mountain.
Hmm.
But what would it look like if it was the top was melted and that and kind of like the walkway up and the walls and stuff? I mean, would you be able to really identify what it actually was, where the mountain began in the buildings began or the buildings ended, if there was a fervent heat moment?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it is. I mean, it does look like. I mean, my theory would be like maybe they built something there and then it got melted and they just built on top of the thing that got melted. Maybe.
Yeah, that's another possibility. I would say that for for sure that well, I think you got a couple of possibilities. For one, they are way more advanced than we ever give them credit for. Because I don't care how many people you got to do that. That is a really difficult task. Can you imagine before it's got a walkway up?
Yeah.
It's just a tall peak, and somebody says, "Let's build a church up there," and somebody would say, "Are you crazy? Do you know how difficult that's going to be? You know how hard that's going to be?" And then you're talking about chisels and buggies and wooden carts and all that kind of stuff. Time period that's built. I want to say that was in somewhere in France outside of Paris that's built there. And so either they're way more advanced than we know, or it did not look like that when they built that.
Hmm.
I think it's pretty much your only options there, right? That it didn't look because the narrative does not pass the smell test. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a suspicious thing. I think it's I think it's unique. I mean they could have I guess built the road and then as they built the road, then they once they finished the road at the top of the mountain, then they started carrying the stuff up the mountain and then built the castle on top of the mountain. I don't know. I mean, but it is I don't know. We
Bro,
can't know.
that mountain is steep.
That is pretty steep.
That thing is legit steep. That's not a gradual thing. That is a peak. I mean, I
Hmm.
think it's kind of also just unusual just altogether. It's just that it looks pretty flat around everywhere else, and it's just a peak right out of the middle of nowhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of almost the more. Let me post that, share that again. I think that's kind of the more unusual part about it is just that I don't think the mountains typically do that. You know what I'm saying? Is this ancient tree stump vibes, Brian? Because it seems like that this place looks relatively flat around there, and then there's just this one peak that just sticks out of nowhere.
I don't know. I mean, it could have been a old tree stump, but the way it's like kind of distorted, I don't know. I have no clue.
Yeah, you think
But we'd
about it.
have to
There's no
go there.
you can't get cranes up there. You can't. They don't have cranes or anything like that. You know, you think about where the building is built. There is no room for materials. There's zero room, right? They would all have to be stored on the ground because every bit of real estate, every bit of square footage of the land at the top is covered by a building at the end of it.
Yeah, it is interesting.
I don't know. It's one again. It's, I guess another one of these mysteries that I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever really know how they did that. And yeah, so we'll just leave it there. You guys let us know in the comments what you guys think. You guys got any theories about that? Because I'm open. I'm open to anything except for what the history says.
Yeah, anything other than the narrative.
Yeah, anything else is I could listen to at least, not roll my eyes. Okay, let's go to a different video. I had one from last week, and it's a friend of the show, Jay Dreamers. He's been killing it. He's been posting some shorter reels. You know, I've been on Jay's show. He's been on my show at one point, and I love the way his mind works. But he's done a great job of showing some kind of old world kind of mystery stuff. And again, that's kind of one of our favorite topics on this show. Just check this out, Brian. This was really interesting video.
1700s robots, also known as automatons. In 1768, there's one called the musician, the woman, the draftsman, and the writer. The dolls are still functional. Over 300 years old, still functional, robots from the 1700s. Can be seen at the Museum of Art and History in Switzerland. They're considered to be among the remote ancestors of modern computers. This is before the Declaration of Independence. This is the guy that made them, okay? Hidden hand, enough said. They are the Freemasons that are exhibiting the hand gesture for the hidden hand, or the hand that is at work but hidden from the world's population. This is the guy that made these. The musician is modeled as a female organ player. The music is not recorded or played by a music box. The doll plays a genuine, custom-built instrument by pressing the keys with her fingers. Movements of her chest show her breathing, and she follows her fingers with her head and with her eyes. The automaton also makes some of the movements that a real player would do, such as balancing her torso. About the draftsman, it says, the draftsman is modeled as a young child and is capable of drawing 4 different images: a portrait of Louis XV, a royal couple, believed to be Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI, a dog, and with an inscription written next to it that says "my doggy," and a scene of Cupid driving a chariot pulled by a butterfly. The draftsman works by using a system of cams that code the movements of the hand in 2 dimensions, plus another dimension to lift the pencil. The automaton also moves on his chair, and he periodically blows on the pencil to remove dust. Robots. Before the Declaration of Independence. The writer is the most complex of the 3 automata. Using a similar system to the one that was used for the draftsman for each letter, he's able to write any custom text, up to 40 letters long. He uses a goose feather to write, which he inks from time to time. This robot, this android, is dipping the pen into the ink and actually, check this out, including shaking of his wrist to prevent the ink from spilling. His eyes follow the text that's being written. His head moves when he takes some of the ink. Antiquitech, ladies and gentlemen. Made by the Freemasons. In my newest book, Return to Hyperborea, I go into more detail about the origin of the Freemasons, who they really are. So do check that out if you're interested in more on the subject.
That is interesting. That's very, very interesting. This, I mean, and it reminds me of that electronic or the robotic goose, the goose that moves its head around and then and turns its head into the water, but it's like glass that spirals. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, is that old too?
Yeah. Type in like robot goose, ancient robot goose,
Okay.
and like you're gonna see it. It's pretty phenomenal, but it's just as impressively. I mean, it moves kind of natural, and like, dude, the ways that it moves is pretty. It looks very naturalistic in its movements. I think it was around the same time the automaton stuff was popping up, and it's like, what is that? These robot things that are that complex. Those are very complex. I mean, I guess in some retrospect, in comparison to computers, maybe not as complex, but at the same time, like that's some ingenuity to teach the robot to draw. That's hilarious.
I can't find the goose.
Yeah, robot goose.
Um, no, I mean that's incredible. I would say that what's funny is that we see a lot about robotics now and AI and things like that, and I guess Musk had some robots and stuff like that. Now, what they can do compared to that is like I'm way more impressed with that old technology because that is just ridiculous. The idea that this thing, the one that plays the piano, is breathing. The one
Yeah.
like their eyes are following their hand movements or shaking the ink off the quill and everything like that. Yeah, that's really really impressive. You know what it made me think of was in movies like The Clash of the Titans. You ever watch the old one, Brian?
Huh? Yeah, yeah.
And you remember they had that
The Cyclops.
no, not the Cyclops, but the owl.
I vaguely remember that. Was it a robot owl?
Yeah, it was a robot owl.
Hmm.
So if you guys check this out, it was, and I remember we talked about it. I talked about it with Vitali once because I know Vitali's done a few videos about, kind of what Greeks wrote about kind of
Oh, yeah, yeah.
these ancient robots and stuff.
I remember the owl.
Kind of like that. So I want to say that the Clash of the Titans, did it come from? Was it Homer? Did he write that? Was it the
Odyssey.
yeah? Is the Odyssey or is it the Iliad? Is that the two kind of famous
I think
myth?
so.
Either one. I said I'm not that schooled on that kind of stuff, but yeah. So this stuff comes from an ancient manuscript, right? Where would they get the idea of robots from back then?
I don't know.
Unless unless they were a thing. What
Yeah.
if this technology is way older than we've really been led to believe? Because it is, like I said, that was one of the things that I really try to stress to people. It was like kind of a mind blowing thing when I finally learned, I saw past all of the lies about how our ancestors were ignorant and stupid. Man was never stupid. Never. I feel like I really feel like that what humanity's experience is based on the things we've learned, at least two big resets. Maybe
Mm.
regionally more than that. You would say the world has experienced two resets. If we believe we're in the little season, we show the evidence that whatever the mud flood was, likely Armageddon, somewhere in the book of Revelation. In the days of Noah, obviously the world has experienced a worldwide flood. So you have two massive, massive resets back to almost zero. But regionally, you have examples in the Bible of humanity being judged in certain areas, certain countries, certain nations, certain cities. So it's likely if man would have had a linear path of development from the days of Noah, I mean, who knows what man could have done by now?
Yeah.
You
Maybe
know,
waving.
and if you really think about it, I want to say biblically that's about 1600 ish years from Adam to the flood, and then so after the flood, you have about probably I would say that, let's just say that there was the Book of Revelation started to play out shortly after the destruction of Jerusalem. That probably would have been about 2,500 years or something like that. So you'd had a longer time from then to then.
Hmm.
So it might have been pretty advanced by the time it really got judged and destroyed. At least in certain parts of the world. I mean, it just seems like the Romans were advanced, so they understood lots of things. I know they had working machines in the times of Nero because there's a
Well,
famous.
there was the Antithica mechanism.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's that. There. Yeah. What is that called? How do you?
The Antithica mechanism. It's off the shore of Antithica.
Okay. Is that Antikythera with an A?
Yeah, with an A.
Yeah. So this was like a something. Did it was what they was believed to be something that helped sailors navigate using the stars. Is that
Yep.
correct?
Yeah, and it was like a moon tracker. Some dude supposedly remade it, the Antithica mechanism, by looking at scans. He remade it. I think that's the remake right there. It looks just like that, at least the remake one. And he
Yeah. And
said
so
it
that
was
wasn't
ended up
that
being
found
a
in like the
tracker.
Mediterranean or something like that?
Yeah, it was in Antithica Sea, like right next to Antithica, wherever that is. Antikythera.
Yeah, Antikythera. Yeah.
That's it. Antikythera mechanism.
Yeah, it's the other one that's really crazy if you think about it was the is the Prague clock.
With the extra hours on it.
No, the Prague clock just has some kind of a it's super advanced, all this celestial zodiac stuff, and that's
It's
what we
got
said
extra
we're gonna
hours though too. Look.
um well, what you have here is it's not just a clock here because you have way more than that. You have
Yeah, zodiac.
Yeah, you have the zodiac, and that's where we said some of us get the idea that maybe there could be like lands passed if there's an ice wall. It's like the circuit of our sun only shows a certain portion of our realm, and anything outside of that would be dark and cold, right? So like what you see here, um, I don't know. It just makes it. You just put it this way: there's a sun, there is a moon on here, but there's also these other dark celestial objects, which some people believe could be where the eclipses come from. The point is, I think this thing was created like in the 1600s. Let me actually look that up. When was the Prague clock invented? But that's a very advanced, piece of equipment.
Oh yeah, totally.
The first recorded mention of the Prague clock was October 1410. That's pretty ridiculous, right?
Yeah, it's definitely sus.
Yeah, so that thing is 600 years old. Yeah, check that out.
Dang, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is like there's a lot of advanced equipment that they've had, and I guess we just don't know. I would just say never underestimate our ancestors. I think clearly they're way smarter than us in many respects. I think the only thing we really have over them is electronics, but we really don't know. We don't really know the depth of the things that they did learn, or the alternative technologies. Of course, when we believe in like the old world and free energy and things like that.
Type in.
Yeah, they were legit.
Okay, type in automaton glass metal swan.
So we found the automaton swan. It was not actually a goose; it was a swan.
Yeah, look at this thing. So it's like it picks up like a fish in its mouth. It moves its head back. Dude, this thing's from like the 18th century. It's called a silver swan. It's got like glass in its mouth, like, or in the water. It's like mimics water with the glass.
I mean, the amount of complexity in something like that, it's just really hard to fathom that you're making this machine that does all these movements.
Look at that. Look at its movements. And it turns its whole head around. And this thing is like ancient, and it picks its feathers out. And that's glass. But it makes it look like water. And little fishes swim. Like, dude, it's just so crazy.
Yeah, I mean chalk that up to again we're lied to about our histories because I mean, that's crazy. So that sounds like if that's the 18th century, that's another 1700s invention. As Jay said, that's what we're told is before the Declaration of Independence, which would also be the time, which would be, from what we conclude, could have been during the millennial reign of Christ. And they were more advanced than we were ever taught. So it kind of tracks. It tracks with everything else we've learned.
I mean, there could be like, I mean, computers, if they disappeared, like we wouldn't know how to use them. Like if we saw computers today, like if 1,000 years from now or 200 years from now, a society stops and computers, they wouldn't work. Like none of the computers would work like 200 years from now. Like they would just be bricks of like metal and stuff. Like we would just see them. They'd probably all corrode. You know, if nobody's using them, you're just leaving them out there. They would just like corrode into whatever. Like, so who knows what kind of technology they had that was similar to computers of some kind. We just don't know what it was. We don't know how it worked. Maybe it turned into some crystalline structure. Maybe they made computers out of crystals. I don't know. Like, you know, like I know it sounds crazy, but like who's to say there wasn't like some diamond thing you could touch and it like brought up some kind of digital interface or something.
What do you mean? Are you talking about like Superman? You know, when Superman is in the Fortress of Solitude, he just sticks crystals in the thing and it plays projections.
I don't know. It could totally do something like that. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got to be honest. I don't know how computers work now. I mean, I know how to use them, kind of. But I mean, like, yeah. I mean, how did they actually work? I don't know. I mean, I guess that's the thing, that it does seem like magic how some of the electronics we have work. But then you see,
totally
and I think that's the really even more mind blowing thing is it's kind of almost like we were talking about like the Prestige, where something is meant to be a trick, and so we don't know how it works, and so you just don't think about it anymore. But when you think about it, like these automatons are these totally mechanical things. Like, how would you build a machine that does all that stuff? Like in our minds, it's like, okay, our phones can do all kinds of things. We really don't know how it all works on the inside, but knowing that some man built every little part that went into this robot that does super complex things, how would you ever? Yeah, because there's no real technically computer like we know to put a chip in there to get it to do all this stuff. So somebody else had to program it mechanically. I wouldn't even know where to begin to do something like that.
The fallen angels did teach men metallurgy. So it's interesting. These are all combines of metal. Like that silver swan, I guess it's silver and glass, but it's all metal. And so it's like, who taught them the metalworking?
Well, yeah, right. I mean, of course, again, that knowledge came from heaven, but it was corrupted in the way that it was brought forth by the Watchers. So during a peaceful time, potentially with God's heavenly hosts who are so faithful to him and God's saints, maybe that technology was not used for evil, because it doesn't seem like that stuff is evil. It seems really cool. Honestly, it's really cool. You know what? Nice little segue here. We're going to talk about a modern doll, not an automaton, but something that maybe is more like that came from the fallen. Check this out, Brian.
Okay.
If you have one of these in your home, be careful, because these little dolls are going viral online and people are saying that it carries some serious demonic energy. Now, these are called Labubu dolls, and they've been getting so popular that fans are waiting in line for hours just to get their hands on one. I mean, a fan tried giving one to Katy Perry during her concert, and Katy Perry just knocked it out of her hand. That's how weird it is, and I'll show you that full clip in a second. But the creators said that it's inspired by Nordic mythology, but many are comparing it to Pazuzu, which is a Mesopotamian demon known for bringing chaos. And it sounds like that's what's happening, because people are sharing their experience with this doll on social media, and some people are saying they feel like they're being watched, they're waking up with scratches, they're having terrifying nightmares, and one little girl was even caught on camera telling her mom that the eye color changed of the doll. Now, I don't know how believable all of that is, especially the physical stuff, but I do believe if you bring in some dark energy willingly into your home, that it can can mess with you spiritually. The weirdest part of it all, of course, there's a Simpsons episode with a Pazuzu doll, and it possesses Maggie the baby, and then everything turns into chaos. But many celebrities have been seen rocking these things, like Rihanna and Kim Kardashian, but Katy Perry is one that does not. Just take a look to see what happens when a fan tries to give her one of these things.
Labubas. That's weird that she. Why? Why would she say such a thing?
You think she'd be all about that?
She's about that. The worldly narrative. I mean, unless she knows something that people don't know. Like, unless she knows something.
Well, yeah, you would say that Katy Perry, 100% in the club, uncontrolled by these demonic entities or these parasites who run the place and use her in all kinds of terrible ways. But she doesn't have to go along with it when it's some random fan trying to do something like that. But I mean, yeah, that's weird. I mean, have you ever even heard of those things, Brian?
I did. A few people have sent me stuff about it. But I've heard the connection to Pazuzu too. But like, it's a Nephilim. It's a Nephilim demon. That's why they're hairy, because it's their hairy little Nephilim demons. I mean, that's all it is. It's just like cuddly, turning into the idea of, the Nephilim being your friends in some capacity. Somebody's been like, you need to make a video about this. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Labubu, Labuba, Pazuzu, whatever. Demons name themselves all kinds of varieties of other names, or change their names just to subtly, it seems, throughout history. But it's like, I don't know, it's just another demonic portal. It's no different than a Barbie doll, really, to me.
You know what I thought when I first saw it, because I didn't know anything about that demon, believe it or not. I had no idea where that other kind of fallen angel looking demonic thing that the name wasn't similar. I didn't think their look was all that similar either, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that it's evil, but you know what it made me think of? Do you remember that book that a lot of people read when they were kids, is Where the Wild Things Are?
Yeah, it totally looks like Where the Wild Things Are, for sure.
Check this out. So this is what I thought when I saw it.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think? Do you think that looks? I think it looks more like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely could be, for sure. Notice how that thing has got scales for feet, and it's got horns, and it's like, bro, that is straight up a Chimera Nephilim hybrid thing. That's literally what it is. And the boy is dressing up in, what do we call that, furry outfit attire, trying to be like them. And it's like, dude, that thing's a demon. That's a demon. That's what demons were. Where the wild things were. They try to make it all friendly with their stupid little demons being
Yeah,
your friends.
Yeah, look at that. It's so demonic.
Look, it's a goat man, dude. Look, why is there a goat man?
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
for
of
real.
all the monsters, you got a goat man in there? I think the goat man's the only one that doesn't look like the rest of the monsters, if I recall.
That one looks like a bull. Yeah, I would say that what the wild things are kind of remind me of would be, for sure that one.
What was that goat man doing to the other guy, too? It looked like he was doing something.
I don't even know.
A little bit.
I feel like that a lot of this is kind of like when we talk with Paul, and I know it's kind of more of a European thing. It's like the wild man mythologies.
Yeah.
Where the wild things are.
Wait, go back to the original, that first image you had, because that goat man thing. Look at that. What's he doing? What's the goat man doing to him? Look, what's he doing to him?
Yeah,
why is he sitting like that?
The pose is weird.
Bro, that's disturbing. The goat man is doing something to him. That is so disturbingly, like, right there in your face. That's disturbing. Is that not? He's the only monster that's not like the rest of them.
The kid is like in a cat's outfit. Is that what it looks like he's wearing?
I don't know what he's wearing. Some cat demon thing. It's like saying, take possession of this identity. It's so weird when you look back at these childhood things, because I remember this book, but looking back at it now,
I thought it was obviously, I thought it was great when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have thought that was just an interesting book. These weird monsters and this imagination and all that stuff. Yeah, looking back at it, it doesn't look all that a good thing.
No, yeah, in Magi Nation, it's literally telling you Magi Nation. Nation is people, Magi is magic. And Magi Nation is magic over the nation. like use your magic over the nation. Like that's, I mean, they're telling you that. So yeah, questionable. And
Yeah,
entrance isn't entrance, it's entrance. Entrance.
mm-hmm.
So that's why it's like, that's what it's saying. It's saying they're all magic terms.
Yeah, there's but yeah, I would say don't get that doll for your kids
No, definitely don't.
because that looks pretty evil. It sounds like just maybe just stay away from that. I mean, it's weird. I guess it's that I'm not really all hip to that kind of stuff, anyways, because I'm not buying dolls for myself or my kids. So I never heard of that until people told me how demonic it was. So I would say, yeah, if it looks evil, it probably is.
Probably is evil. If it's
Probably
hairy
evil.
and got horns, probably a Nephilim.
Probably,
Just
yeah,
saying.
probably so. Okay, let's shift gears. I want to talk about. I want to go like shift gears wildly here, and then we're going to get into. Like I said, I teased a little bit of the Chicago portion of the podcast. Again, there is a really, really interesting video that we're going to have to go deeper into. No pun intended. But I saw this was really interesting. Brian, have you heard about this Asian guy who's trying to fly around the whole world?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so check this out. We're gonna watch this one little video, and then I'm gonna read this tweet about this guy. This was really interesting. This is really sus.
I'm attempting to become the first person ever to fly to all 7 continents solo, but getting here hasn't been easy. At 13, I began preparing for this by homeschooling and finishing high school early to focus fully on my mission. At 15, with funding challenges, I worked different jobs to help pay for training and constantly searched for sponsors. Unfortunately, while preparing, my cousin was diagnosed with stage 4 blood cancer. Wanting to help, I shifted this mission to something more important. So at 16, I completed my first solo flight. By 17, I earned all my pilot's license and set a record for the fastest time to fly to all contiguous states. Still, no insurance company wanted to cover my flight around the world, so I flew across the Atlantic twice and finally got insurance. But on the first day of my journey around the world, my engine failed, leaving me stranded. Over the next couple of months, I learned how to fix planes, volunteered at the local flight school, and began preparing for my second attempt. But by the time everything was ready, winter had arrived, making it too dangerous to continue. After a total of 5 years of preparation, failures, and overcoming challenges, I turned 18, ready to risk my life to finish what I've started. I've taken off again, and I've now crossed the Atlantic, flown over Europe, and I'm about to reach my third continent, Africa. But the journey is far from over. In the next 120 days, I'll be flying 40,000 more miles, visiting 50 countries and landing at all 7 continents in this 50-year-old plane. Along the way, I've faced extreme weather, mechanical challenges, vast oceans, and isolation, all while stopping at hospitals, meeting with patients, and raising awareness and funds to fight against cancer. But I can't do this alone. So follow along and share this mission as together we can save lives and create history.
Okay, so the interesting part is the reason I wanted to share that was, so this tweet from Colin Rugg, he says, a 19-year-old pilot who is flying around the world to raise money for cancer research arrested after landing in Antarctica. Chinese-American pilot Ethan, is it Goa? How do you say that name? Goa?
Goa? I don't know.
Is trying to fly to all 7 continents to raise $1 million for cancer research. Goa recently took off from Punta Arenas Airport in Chile before modifying his flight plan without notifying the respective airport traffic control centers of the airport. The general director of civil aeronautics said the unauthorized operation at the airfield in Antarctica also implied non-compliance with Antarctica's statute. Goa has over 1 million followers on Instagram. He started the mission after his cousin was diagnosed with cancer. I want to take advantage of every opportunity to raise awareness of the childhood cancer and need to intensify research to find methods of prevention and treatment, he said. So they arrested this guy because he didn't let him know he was going to be flying into Antarctica.
Interesting.
Arrested him. Why?
I don't know. It's so weird. It's like so weird. What are they doing in Antarctica that they didn't want him to see? I wonder what he saw. We got to ask him. We're going to find out what he saw.
What if it was more likely that he flew over something that he was not supposed to see?
That sounds more appropriate.
Because it would be kind of like that you would scare the crap out of this person if they just landed on an airport. Like, it's kind of like if you landed on a military base and they said, we could have shot you out of the sky. You were lucky that we didn't. Okay, now get out of here.
Yeah, just
and if you don't fly this way, you're in big trouble. But to arrest him?
I don't know, man. Like, and where does he get the money for a plane and then money for all this stuff flying? That's so much fuel. That's a
Well,
lot of money.
it seems like a small plane. I mean, that was like
That's
I
still a
think.
ton of money in fuel, bro.
Well, you think about it, he's likely being able to crowdsource a lot of this stuff to do it.
Well, at least now he is.
Well, I mean, he's got 1 million followers. I mean, a lot of people are supporting me. It seems like it hasn't been a short endeavor. He's had problems, and it looks like he's had to work on things himself. And it's kind of funny to think about, like, you need to get insurance for that thing. I'd kind of think like that's kind of why would anyone insure that at all?
I don't
You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, I'm not going to insure this teenager to go fly around the world. It's like, yeah, I mean, like, this is a risk you take if things go bad. But that was one of the reasons it stopped him from continuing on. But yeah, what the heck are they doing in Antarctica, Brian?
But they need to arrest you for flying in there.
What if he flew over the pyramids there?
What if he's, dude? I wonder what he saw. We gotta find
he saw the ice wall.
You saw the ice wall.
He saw the ice wall. He saw the lands beyond. What kind of possible reasoning would they say? Oh, well, he didn't let him know. So what? It's like a bunch of countries. They just decide to arrest somebody. Like, by what authority? The authority of the world?
Him? Yeah, who's arrested him?
Like, the Antarcticans?
The Antarcticans arrested him. Like, what authority is he arrested under? Like, you know what I mean?
The whole thing is absurd. It's kind of like you would think that you have all this treaty, this Antarctic treaty with all these countries. Is there embassies down there? What the heck is happening there?
We need to find out.
It's like this, what we're told, it's just some kind of just ice box down there. It's like there's not much to see. It's just, there's some mountains and lots of snow and lots of ice. Why would anyone care?
Suspicious.
They're hiding something. What are they hiding? Maybe it could be the thing on the prog clock I was saying. Is there lands beyond? Whatever they're hiding, it's obviously something.
Didn't Buzz Aldrin have some kind of like mental breakdown when he went there, and he like posted a tweet and said, "We're all going to die" or something like that? Or like he said, Buzz Aldrin did.
Let me try to look that up.
Yeah, Buzz Aldrin posted a tweet and he said like, "We're all in great danger" when he got there, and then he had a heart attack in Antarctica when he landed or something like that.
Okay, let's look this up.
So
Antarctica
Buzz
tweet,
Aldrin, we're all in great danger.
Oh, here it is. Buzz Aldrin. We are all in danger. It is evil itself.
That's what he posts.
And it looks like a mountain.
That looks like a pyramid.
Yeah, it's definitely a
sharp mountain.
Yeah, it's a pyramid looking mountain. That's weird, dude. That's really weird.
We are all in danger. It is evil itself. Why did he tweet such a thing? And then he had a heart attack right after that.
Like you said, you've said this before. I remember you had a really kind of viral video. I think eventually you got in trouble for it on Instagram because you were saying that Buzz Aldrin has been hypnotized. That dude has been messed with all kinds of different ways. Like I said, I always think that's a really kind of interesting take, is that you have the contrast between Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong. I think Neil Armstrong only did maybe one interview after they supposedly went to the moon, and then he did like one public interview about it after that, and nothing else. And he was kind of not seen in public very often. But Buzz Aldrin has kind of been everywhere, and he does not do them any favors to prove their case that they went to the moon, because he says some crazy stuff. He contradicts himself. He's a loose cannon, which again would not kind of be the MO of what you would expect to be an astronaut, who'd be very squared away, right? Very kind of almost like a military man, very smart. He doesn't seem like that.
Well, he just got married not too long ago. Did you know that?
Buzz Aldrin
got married. Yeah, look up Buzz Aldrin married at 93. Look at who he married. Like, just wait till you see it.
Is it better looking than the chick that Jeff Bezos married?
Oh, it's definitely better looking than Jeff Bezos for sure. It's I mean, she looks like maybe she's quite a few years younger than Buzz could ever be. I don't know.
Oh, hey, check this out.
Yeah, right? Look at that is like that looks like it could be his daughter. I'm pretty sure like
Look at that smile that he's got.
look at that smile. It's totally worth the smile. She married him for the smile, you know. You know.
Hmm.
You know she married him for the smile. Look at that.
Oh my gosh, he looks like he's. Look at his eyeballs.
Bro, he's like lost it, bro. He's like look at what he's wearing. I just like some Freemason medal like here's
Oh
your
my.
little trophy wife Buzz. Shut your mouth. Stop talking crazy. Send in the troops. I wonder how much she's being paid to marry him.
Yeah. Maybe she wants to marry a guy who faked going to the moon.
I guess. Wait, you gotta see other pictures of her. It's so funny. She's way prettier than Buzz is, that's for sure. We'll just put it that way.
Did I ever tell you? I said, do you know what Buzz's mother's maiden name is? Brian, did you ever hear that?
I have. I don't remember what it was, but tell me.
Her maiden name, or I think her name was Marion, and her maiden name was Moon.
Yes, yes, I do remember that.
Marion Moon. What are the odds?
Yep. What are the odds? That is very suspicious.
It's
Moon.
just like you can't make this stuff up, or maybe you actually
can.
can make this stuff up, and they do.
It's all made up. It's all made up. Oh my god.
It is. The world's a stage. Now check this out. Now I've been teasing this video. Now this video right here, Brian, I don't know if you've seen this going around social media, but this is right in our wheelhouse, brother.
Yes, I sent you this too.
As we drain the waters from the Great Lake, Michigan, a steel column is exposed, rising 40 feet to the ocean surface. It is a water intake station. Claiming to have built this in 1865 by putting up cofferdams, pumping the water out, and then getting to the lake bottom and digging 200 more feet down. All the while take a 90-degree turn and head 3 to 7 miles back to land with no compressed air or power tools. Plus the fury of Lake Michigan and its frozen waters in the winter. These water intake stations on Lake Michigan were built prior to the filling of the reservoir that is Lake Michigan. They didn't dig down in between cofferdams to reach the bottom and dig another 200 feet down. We may just simply did it before they flooded the area. It was planned, created, and implemented by the highest concentration of masons in the country, the Great Lakes.
It really makes you wonder, because what is the illusion there? Is because that's a feat of impossibility. It seems what a ridiculously impossible feat to dig 200 feet under water. You'd have to drain the entire massive, by the way, massive lake. Okay, Lake Michigan, massive lake, like an ocean.
Well,
right?
it's like they need to, I guess, dam around an area and then pump it out. I guess that's what I was saying. Like these coffer dams, so they built a circular dam, and then they must have had to pump the water out, and then they had to start building the towers inside of it, and
That's insane.
and then they had to start digging under Lake Michigan. 7 miles? Is that what they said? 3 to 7 miles or something like that? Yeah, I guess it was 7 miles total. It was like 3 miles
down
on each side.
Wow,
bro, that what made me think of it was when we were clowning on the idea about the transatlantic telegraph cable.
Yeah. That's literally what it feels like. Yeah.
You know what? It's almost the exact same time period too. They did that in the 1860s. I want to say it was like the exact same time period they did that.
And so the guy is suggesting though that they drained it, dammed it, drained it, dug, and built these massive structures to withstand, and then let the water come back in. But he's kind of suggesting that there was no way that's possible. He was saying, like, right in that video, was kind of saying that that's not quite possible, or what?
I think what he was actually saying was that
the Masons just flooded the area, and they
no,
built those
what he
things
was
there.
I think what he was actually saying was that, and I try to find this old map is of that area. He was saying that when they built that, Lake Michigan was not there.
Yeah.
And that's
But
the
they
interesting
created
thing, is
Lake
because if
Michigan.
you actually see these maps, and I'll if I can't find one now, I'll insert it here in a second, that when you see Shalaga on these old maps, okay, I think I found one. There is no Great Lake. The Great Lakes are not in these old maps from like the 1500s.
So
Again,
I wonder what was there that they wanted to bury, or that they wanted to flood.
well, it's the point is, I guess, that they were going to use that in some kind of way. I mean, I guess that it's in the same way that they would make the Hoover Dam and they would flood Lake Mead. But you see, so this map, I want to say, is from the 1500s. Because I mentioned this before, is that Chicago's story, and again, we're going to get further into Chicago here in a second. But you see these old maps. There's a place called Shalaga, and I think that map actually says was 1492 on there. It's kind of interesting that there's a Shalaga, and eventually there wasn't a Chicago until the 1800s. In 1840, there was only 4,000 people in Chicago. So by 1860 something, they make that reservoir thing in Lake Michigan. I don't know, bro. Whatever they tell us, I cannot wrap my mind around the idea that they would do that. They had the skill and the means to do that in the 1860s.
We definitely lost intelligence in our society, for sure, if that's the case. I mean, maybe they
I guess
did.
the real question is, like, again, why? Why would they do that altogether? If you have Lake Michigan
really
out there,
weird. Why do you need an intake pump from the water?
That's really weird, because I'm saying
maybe
like
maybe they pumped the water into that area from those pumps.
Yeah, well, it's almost like that. So how would, if you see those old rivers, the way that they ran, how would you have created a lake like that? I guess the one thing that maybe doesn't really kind of fit the narrative is that Lake Michigan is really deep. You ever heard how deep Lake Michigan is? I took a fishing charter boat on Lake Michigan once. It was really weird because, I always say that I live on the east coast of Virginia, and I've been deep sea fishing, but when I went out on Lake Michigan, it felt like being deep sea fishing. It felt like being on the ocean. So it was really weird for me because I'm used to the salt air. So it being on fresh water, it was so unusual. Let me see. It says like Lake.
Did it feel weird?
It did. There was also lots of bugs out there. Like a lot
lakes they always feel weird for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, check this out. So Lake Michigan is almost 1,000 feet deep.
Wow.
923 feet deep.
Dang.
That's pretty. I mean, so if you think about it, yeah, I don't know if those old maps show that it was so much of a valley, right? Because I guess that's the one thing that's kind of missing from the component of if what that guy's trying to say versus what's true is that, because of course, like if you go out west and they make the Hoover Dam, there's lots of mountains there. So there's valleys. So that's what happens when you make a dam and you create these lakes, is they flood the valleys. But there would have to be some really deep, that's a really deep valley. I mean, it's like because that's obviously not a place that there's really mountains around Chicago. It's weird. The whole thing is
suspicious.
The whole thing is really weird. I don't know what to believe about that, but all I know is I don't believe that they did that in the middle of Lake Michigan. And again, that's what's
the
point.
Intake things for in the first place? And there's multiple ones. Like, why is it water intake? Like out in the middle.
Yeah, like you couldn't get access to the water from the shore.
Stick a hose in the water. Like, what'd you do? Like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Right. Like why would you need to do that from that far out in the lake?
Build these massive pillars to get to it. I just don't. That just doesn't.
Why
make
not
sense
make it
to me.
closer?
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, maybe I'm stupid, but like, why would it have to be that far out? Why couldn't it be right at the shore? Just far enough out where you didn't have to dig 7 miles.
Yeah.
I don't know, bro. I don't know. All I'm saying is, let's get into that. So you know what? So we got a nice little video that can piggyback on that, because it's about Chicago in water. Actually, I've got a kind of a back-to-back video. So check this out, Brian.
Do a close-up on this one. See, all the detail, old world building. New buildings is just made of glass and stuff like that. Y'all can tell that is not. And then it's like literally a castle, sacred geometry. Look into that. It'll unlock a whole lot of stuff in y'all brain. It's an old world building. It look like this. It look like it could stand 1,000 more years. I ain't gonna lie to you. A real castle is crazy. So this stuff been here before the reset. Old Tartaria, some of y'all call it. I don't know what it's called, but old world architecture, y'all.
Every day, Chicagoans fly past the historic water tower with barely a second glance. Tourists do, yes, but let's take a closer look at this legendary structure. Built in 1869 in the Gothic Revival style, the tower was designed by William Boyington and constructed of Joliet limestone. Contrary to the myth, the tower was not the only structure to survive the Chicago fire of 1871, with 4 other buildings remaining unscathed in addition to the pumping station across from the tower. St. Michael's Church in Old Town and a police station a number of miles away also survived, but most of the city was leveled from the near south side to the north as far as Fullerton Avenue. Only the west side was spared the carnage. Curious fact number 1, Frank Trotman, a German immigrant and firefighter, clad the building in Lake Michigan soaked blankets and canvas sails, saving it from the flying, flaming debris. Curious fact number 2, does the structure look familiar? Well, in 1928, Chicago's first White Castle hamburger location was modeled after this iconic structure. And yes, Chicagoans still bristle over flame broiled, unless they're at Burger King.
That's funny.
What a bunch of crap that guy just was spitting there. He said that some kind of, was it Irish or German immigrant, took Lake Michigan soaked blankets and sails and threw it over that old
Stone
castle. What? Like what? Like, I mean, seriously. I've heard a lot of stupid things on this podcast and the videos we've watched. That you're going to throw wet blankets over an old castle to prevent it from burning down.
Save it. Save everybody with wet blankets.
Mind you, what we're told, and I'm going to actually play. I got a follow up video from the Bully Slayer again. I told you I pulled one from the archives talking about the Chicago fire. Mind you, they're saying the whole city is burning down, and that's the building that you said, hey, how close is it to Lake Michigan? You're going to soak blankets in sails in Lake Michigan and then carrying them. How many would you need?
Well, is that a water
cover
house?
That castle. It was a pumping station. It was
well,
a water
just pump
pumping
the
station.
water into the sails.
Yeah, why wouldn't you just use the water that comes out of that thing? Isn't it interesting too? It said it was built in 1869. Didn't they say that they built that reservoir thing in Lake Michigan in 1868?
Well,
Are they related? I mean,
that's
what is
wonderful.
the deal with that? And why a castle?
Very suspicious, very unusual.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just not all that smart, but I would say that regular fire would not burn down
Rock.
that stone.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about it on one of the very first mixtapes we did. We talked about like the amount of heat it would take to melt stone, to destroy stone. It's way hotter. And of course, we don't want to get into like the 9/11 stuff about how hot it needs to be to melt steel beams. It needs to be even hotter to melt stone and rock.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the kind of fire that can just be regular fire. It has to be something way hotter than that. It's kind of like if you guys have ever watched, Game of Thrones, like dragon fire is hotter than regular fire because fire does not melt rock.
Mm-hmm. Well, think about it. If it did, none of your ovens or backyard barbecues would work if it melted the steel.
Do you know what fireplaces are typically made out of?
Yeah.
They're made
Rocks
of brick. They're made
or
of
metal.
bricks or stones because the fire does not melt them. Now that castle, as that one guy said, he bet it would be here for another 1,000 years. That's what I'm saying. I think that thing might have been here for 1,000 years. And let's talk a little bit about the Chicago fire, because I thought that was a great video by the Bully Slayer, because I think this is, again, there's a great fire of almost every big city in America, multiple great fires, but the Chicago one's kind of the most famous one.
The Great Chicago Fire, 1871. Now this is how they erase history. Now what kind of fire is this? It almost destroyed every building in the city, but the trees still standing. Many great buildings was destroyed. It looks like it was blown up, if you ask me. This is a picture from World War I, and it looks very similar. And what was the cause of this fire? Legends have it that a family cow knocked over a candle, and that's how it began. And this is the cow that got the blame. Come on, brother. You know you're struggling for lives when you've got to blame the cow. Poor cow. You see, they got sloppy with their reset. They thought they could say anything and people would believe them. But that ain't the case anymore. When I say I got your ass, oh, I've got your ass.
The cow. The cow.
Yeah, Mrs. Leary's cow kicked over I guess it would have been a
oil lamp.
Kerosene. Is that kerosene, right? Lamp.
Mm-hmm. Oil lamp.
Right. Yeah. And where's the cow at in this city?
In the house. The family cow, bro. It's the family cow. Don't you know? You keep cows in your house.
I'm just trying to picture this again. I don't ever claim to know everything, but I'm just trying to picture this.
Family.
You see the picture. You see the pictures of Chicago. Like you see like the early illustrations of it. It looks like a big city.
Yeah.
Is there farms in the middle of this city?
Nope. There's just.
Is it like it's like Central Park in New York, except there's this big old red barn and just whatever else there, where there's like cows and grazing animals also there.
No, JT. They keep the cows inside their house like dogs and cats, dude. That's how they did it.
This cow kicks over a lamp, and it burns down brick and stone buildings.
Yeah, and all the other brick and stone buildings. Utterly destroys the entire city. The one cow. That's a dangerous cow.
See, okay, so here's the contradiction that I don't think cannot be understated. Okay, so on one hand, you have to say these people are really smart. When they put their minds to doing something, they can do pretty much anything. Again, transatlantic telegraph cable, and then what we just talked about, that amazing engineering feat in Lake Michigan.
But they can't stop fires, bro. That's a whole nother level.
Right. So they have these things that happened before this great fire in 1871. But if a cow kicks over an oil lamp, it destroys their whole city, and they have no way to stop it. Am I the only one who sees a contradiction there? And as the Bully Slayer rightfully said, and he's obviously not the only one who's ever said this, that place looks like it was bombed.
Yeah, it does.
Those pictures look like bombs went off in these places because it's rubble.
Oh yeah, totally.
You don't even really see any singes by fire. I mean, we've seen, unfortunately, a lot recently about places in California and Hawaii that have been burned, and you can tell. I mean, there's no doubt those places were burned. Now, what were they burned by? I mean, it's hard. Like I said, you can get conspiratorial about that. We won't get into that. But what that looks like, yeah, he was right to show a picture of World War One, or you could even show in World War Two of places that were just bombed just into just complete ruins.
Yeah,
That
that's
was not that
suspicious.
was what they were showing was not evidence of a fire that was just prolonged by catching wood materials and dry things, because again
If
they're not
somebody
going to.
had bombs back then.
Well, I mean, we know that even based on the time period, you have like the Civil War, they have cannons. I mean, that's what we're told. But I mean, I don't think you can kind of have that kind of level. I mean, they would have had dynamite. They would have had TNT, right, in the 1870s. Actually, I've heard that in one of these stories that they did dynamite some buildings to stop fires in places because they want. It's kind of like that sometimes firefighters, if there's a brush fire, there's like a fire in like wilderness, they'll actually do controlled burns to stop the fire from burning,
Hmm.
the other stuff. So that kind of makes a little sense, but I don't think that's in the narrative that, well, the cow kicked over the lamp. Let's just go ahead and just blow everything up to prevent the fire from spreading to more rural areas.
Very suspicious. Makes you wonder, for sure.
Yeah, it makes me do more than that. But here's another. If you think that story is fishy, check out this story about Chicago. And this might be even worse.
All right, guys, I think I found the fakest story I've ever researched. The Raising of Chicago. I'd just go to the Wikipedia page and read it. Do yourself a favor. But essentially, this perfectly gridded out city of Chicago. 1858, they said, oh no, we made a mistake. We accidentally built in a swamp and all of our buildings are sinking. And so they just raised all the buildings with jack screws. Here's the photos. They did it. Look at these photos. Look at this. They said they did this to buildings all over. Some of the buildings, they wanted to replace them with bigger stone buildings. And so they took all of the wooden buildings and they just rolled them away. They said they did this so frequently, it was like traffic, and that people were hopping in and conducting business as usual as these buildings are rolling down the street to find their place in the suburbs because brand new stone buildings had just been built. This is like before the Great Chicago Fire. So all of these stone buildings are about to burn down, but first they raised them all up. I don't think any of that happened. I think all the buildings are underground, and this is their weird explanation for how they had to dig them all out. And our dumb paper history books just tell a different story. These are drawings. These are literally, I could do this. You could commission this if you're writing a false history book. Pay for this art. Chicago's on old world maps. It's on old world maps. It says Chicago. It's been there forever. These buildings have been here forever. We have such stupid narratives, and it's all paper. Rock, paper, scissors. Paper beats rock every time. It's time to cut up the paper and appreciate the rocks for what they actually are. That's all I'm saying.
Good point. Make some points.
What's a great point? I don't know that he kind of alluded to it, was that, okay, so what he was saying was that in the 1850s, I think he said 1858, they were taking jack screws and they were lifting these buildings and then they were moving them.
So weird.
And what we get is illustrations.
So
there was cameras back in those days.
Maybe
that was not
Photoshop back in those days.
Well, they certainly had Photoshop back in those days, but because they white out the skies, but maybe it's not to that level. That you would think there'd be lots of pictures of that. Because I want to say that again, what we're told is that the camera was invented, I want to say in like 1812-ish, something like 1812, 1820. So the technology was long there by then. It would have been like a common use thing by the 1850s, almost 1860. And despite what people say about exposure, when people say that exposure took hours and hours, that was the very first camera, literally the very first camera they talk about. By the time we got to the 1850s, I think exposure was only like 20 seconds. So you would get blurry things if people were moving around. But I imagine it would take them a long time to jack up the building. So those buildings would be pretty, and they probably wouldn't go real fast either. So why were they just drawings? Why were they just illustrations?
Photoshop wasn't that good, bro. It was the first phases of Photoshop. They had to stick with the drawings.
Right. So the answer is they're illustrations because it's cartoons. It never
Yeah.
happened. That's totally made. Yeah. So they built this city. Again, this is very similar, I guess, to the story of Seattle. Is they built this city on this place that floods all the time. So they didn't know that they built Chicago on a place that was swampy. Again, the contradictions here. That these people are both very, very smart, but also pretty stupid. That they could build a city like this and build it again after it burns down and jack up the buildings and do all those kind of things, but not know that the land they chose to build one of the biggest cities in America on was actually not very good land.
It was a swamp. They didn't know. They didn't know till after they built all the city.
Well, I mean, some of that story could be that, again, like maybe the topography changed afterwards, but it's kind of like if they had, I don't doubt that the city maybe had flooding problems, but it's kind of like if you had an old city, there was already a city there, maybe you would do some kind of things that would make no sense, but it wouldn't make sense if it was a new city. But if you were trying to repurpose an old city, maybe maybe there's a little grain of truth in those stories, because why else would they need to say some of these things? Because it's like they needed to be able to, yeah, like you said, dig into the ground, expose the tunnels, find all the things that are under that city that were buried. That makes more sense to me.
What a narrative.
I think it's just so stupid, bro. I mean, it's like, it really is. It's like, it's amazing that we're supposed to believe this stuff, and I'm the crazy one for saying, I don't know, I don't really trust any of that stuff, and then people are going to tell me that I'm stupid. Whatever. I know haters are going to hate. Jesus said there would be haters. Okay, so anyways, guys, thank you guys for joining us. That's the end of the episode on YouTube. Please support this podcast either through Modern Roots Life. Again, you can support this podcast and support your own health. Win-win. Buy a t-shirt. Jesus said there would be haters. Got the shirts here. And if you guys want to see the full episode of this podcast, please support me on Patreon, because you'll get these episodes early and uncensored. So we're going to move on to the uncensored portion of the podcast. I appreciate you guys dearly. Love you guys. God bless.
Later.
Everyone left me. Everyone deserted me. Jesus was always there. When everyone hated me and walked away, Jesus never walked away.